So students, Tim here from Lessons on the Web once again, and we're going to turn our brains into music mode once again today. And we were talking about how to write a simple song, as you can see. So as we get into how to actually write the song, or before that rather, we're going to talk about some things you need to know about to fully understand this lesson. So the first thing is that songs have a melody. We're looking at this first measure here, and melodies are read from left to right. Pretty simple. Now obviously melodies are a little bit longer than that, but usually the melody is the part of the song that you will remember. So like, or, you know, all of those things. Those are the melody of the song. And like I said, they're read from left to right. And now you get into the second measure here, and the harmony. Harmonies are read up and down, and usually, well, actually, we'll talk about that in a second here. Let me circle it for us. So this would be the harmony. So it's what you have on the bottom, you know, going up and down vertically, plus what you have up top in kind of a vertical column. Melodies mostly use steps, which is moving from note to note. So notice how we're going from E. Oh, let me change the thing back for us. It's going from E to F to G to A right in a row. Well, that's called stepping. So you're just going from note to note. So if you're going from A to B to C to D, that's stepping. Even if you're going backwards from C to B to A to G, and then so forth, that is also stepping as well. Keep note that songs mostly use stepping in their melodies. Okay, another thing to note is melodies can also skip, which is moving every other note. So notice how they're all in the space. All spaces, or they can all be lines. Those are skips as well. You can skip up, or you can skip down. And then keep in mind that songs will use some skips, but not nearly as many skips as they would steps. And then the less common one are the leaps, which a leap is just a huge jump in the notes for the melody. So they can be, if you are familiar with your intervals, a leap is a fourth, which is, you know, a note and four notes away and above. So it encompasses a lot of different intervals, but just know that a leap is a large gap, and that know that songs, when you're writing songs, to use very few leaps. It is appropriate to use leaps sometimes, and actually they can be used very effectively. But you don't want to have all leaps. Then your song will sound too disjointed and it won't make much sense. So, harmonies now, another thing you have to know about. Harmonies are indicated by chords. And as I said before, chords are read up and down in a vertical column. So, there we have a harmony. The harmony is a chord. Now, like I said before, if you have a chord and a note above that chord, just a single note, that note above in the treble clef, like over here for instance, is also part of the harmony, because it's read up and down in a vertical column. Songs use a combination of chords known as chord progressions. So as you can see down here, we have a bunch of different types of chords. Now you can have the same chord repeat again and things like that. You can see the chords either in root position, meaning they're evenly stacked, like this one, or in an inversion, like this one, where they're not evenly stacked. They kind of have a space there somewhere in the chord. And the combination of chords you use in a song is known as your chord progression. So that's something we're going to need when we write our first song on the staff here. So for the song we are using today, we are using a simple 1-4-5-1 progression. Now what do I mean by that? Well, the thing is if you write out a C major scale, which is all of the bottom notes of these chords here in this measure, F, G, A, B, C, that makes the C major scale. And what we've done is we've built chords on every one of the notes. So the 1, 4, 5, 1 progression is 1, and then you go up to the fourth chord, which is F in this case. You got 5, which is G in this case, and then back to 1 there. So you got 1, 4, 5, and 1. Now, keep in mind that songs will often use these, but not in that exact order. They can bounce around. So say you could go like 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1. Something like that. You don't always see them strictly as 1, 4, 5, 1. A key tells you which notes are sharped or flatted in a song. So here we can see that we have a key signature. And a key signature, you have the same one written in the right hand and the left hand. And a key signature will tell you which notes are sharped or flat. In this case, we have flats, and we have 4 of them. We have B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. Maybe wondering how I figured that out. Well, if you replace where the flats are with notes, just think about what letter that note is on. So the first one is clearly on the line B. So that means that B is going to be flat throughout the whole song unless it tells you otherwise. Now let's write our song. First we'll pick the key of D major. You can pick any key when you pick your song. Just keep in mind that you understand that key. I actually have a great lesson on keys you can find in the description, after you're done this lesson, or if you want to check that out now. And the key, as we said before, tells you what sharps are flats. So you need to understand that if you pick the key of A major, you have to know that that has 3 sharps, F, C, and G. Now you can look that up if you don't want to memorize it right away, and that's totally fine. But just make sure you understand what notes are supposed to be sharp or flat, because it will be a disaster. It will be very problematic if you do not follow that. So the next thing you want to do is you want to write out the scale. So once you write out the scale, you can build chords on every note of that scale. Now, one thing I want to tell you about is remember that we have our key signature to worry about as 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So the sharp will be here on the F, and then also here with the C. So it's F sharp and C sharp. Do not forget where those sharps lie. Then we build the chords on the scale. And then, of course, you are going to pick the first chord. For this song, we are the 4th chord, the 5th chord, and then also the first chord again, since that one is the same. It's just an octave above as the first chord. So we're going to write that 1, 4, 5, 1 progression. We're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to do 1, 4, 1, 5, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. And we're going to write those as whole notes in the left hand. So as you can see here, this next step takes up these next 4 measures. Okay, so now we need a melody in the right hand. The safe bet is to start each measure with a chord tone. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we have the chord below in our left hand, which is down here, obviously. And a chord tone is just any note that belongs to that chord. So if it's a D, F sharp, or A, it's a chord tone. I just chose what's called the root of the chord, so D. So that's playing it safe. That just means that when you play that note, it's going to sound consonant, which means it will blend very well and sound very pleasing. So that's what we've done so far. We just picked basically the root of each chord. And there we go. Although that last one, I did not pick a root note or a chord tone, so that's why it sounded a little bit off. So like I was saying, if you want to play it safe, pick a chord tone. I think I'm actually just going to keep it at A there, because that belongs in that chord there. You got A, C sharp, and E. So A works perfectly. So we actually have, and there we go. It doesn't sound too bad yet, but it doesn't really sound like much, does it? So we will then fill out notes to fill out the melody. So we have the same notes that we had before. We have the D from before, we have the G from before, we have the A from before, and we have another A again. I made it a whole note this time. And anytime you write, music is often written in 2 or 4 measure, increments. We call these musical phrases, and then those phrases can be put together in what's called a period, which is like a complete musical idea. So just keep in mind that usually, especially for your first song, let's stick to 2 4-bar or 4 measure pieces. So as you find out, once we finish this part, we're only halfway there. So here we have a melody. What I did to fill out the melody is I used mostly steps, right? So we had the D from before, and I just kind of went up and down by stepping, and doesn't sound too bad. Then the next measure, same kind of thing. And then third measure, nothing is skipping around a whole lot. Now the thing is that I could have added a couple of skips and a couple of leaps, and it probably would have added some more interest to it. Actually, like right here, let's see if I can add a leap, change this into a leap. Let's see how that works. Yeah, not bad. I'm just kind of like thinking of what might sound good. So one thing you also want to do is kind of play around with your song, find out what sounds the best there. And I think, whoops. I think I'm going to change this A actually up an octave here. So like I said, don't be afraid to play around and make sure you have the type of melody you want. So now it sounds like this. It sounds a lot better just by adding that leap in there. And then actually there's a skip right at the end. But mostly steps, remember that. So we're only halfway there. However, for the second half, we're going to copy the first half. It says hoppy there. Copy the first half and change the last measure to a 1 chord. Now, the one thing you want to consider is that when you have two 4-bar segments, the end of the first 4-bar segment, right here, you want to end on a 5 chord, meaning that, that's the 5th note of the scale. You build a chord on that. In this case, it's A. Now, why do we do that? Because doing that kind of makes it sound like the song's going to continue. However, if you end on a 1 chord, now let me play it, just changing the last chord and the last note. And it sounds very final, ending on the 1 chord. So if you ever want the song to sound like it's completely finished, end on a 1 chord. If you want it to sound like it's going to continue, end on a 5 chord. Obviously, there's a lot more to writing music than just this. Remember that this lesson is all about being able to write your very first song on the piano. So here we go. We're going to write a song from scratch right now. So what should we do? The first thing we need to do probably is pick a key. Another thing I didn't really mention a whole lot about is time signature. I didn't really want to get into that too much because remember this is supposed to be our first song, so we're just going to pick 4/4. So the first thing we need to do really to just kind of break this down is write out our scale. So let's pick a key. Okay, we've picked the key of F with 1 flat, B flat, and the next thing we need to do is draw out a scale. So we know a scale, by the way, is basically all the notes that exist in a key, just put in music alphabetical order. So there we go. Now we have our scale. Now we're going to build triads on each note of the scale. Okay, there we go. Now we have our 8 chords. Remember where the flat is. It's over B flat. So any chord that has B in it will be B flat instead. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be using our simple chord progression 1, 4, 5, and then back to 1. So that basically equates to F major, B flat major, C major, and then F major once again. And remember, you don't have to use that exact chord progression. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to draw out an F. We're going to draw out our chord progression first in whole notes. So here we go. So there we go. Now we have our chord progression in whole note chords. Remember, this is the first half, the first 4 bars. That's why I ended on a 5 chord here. You may be wondering, well, that doesn't look like a 5 chord. Well, that's because I put it in an inversion. That's something a little bit more advanced, so don't worry about that. If you just put a, C chord there, that will work just fine. Okay, so here we go. We need a melody now. So for our melody, remember, we're going to just draw in some chord tones as the first note in each measure. So here, I have no idea how it got that. It's doing really crazy stuff tonight. Okay, so you have F there, and then here, let's just say we can choose between B flat, D, and F. I'm going to choose F again. Here I'm going to choose A because I chose F before. Now this is oversimplifying things. Like I said, you may be watching this and thinking, there's a lot more to writing music than just this. Of course there is, but remember this is our first song. So the next step is to write in the notes in between by just kind of like stepping, making a melody. You can actually play around with it on the keyboard to see what sounds good. I kind of like that. F, G, C, A. I kind of like that as a half note, so I'm going to change that into a half note. Just kind of walking you through what my thought processes are. I actually kind of like it moving to a G, a half note. And here, let's see. I kind of like that, so I'm going to go with that. So like I said, noodle around on the piano. If you are good at piano or whatever instrument you prefer. I don't know. I'm kind of liking. I'm gonna do that. Go with the F. I like that the most, and I'm actually going to just put a whole note here because that's a very good. A whole note, by the way, at the end of a 4-bar phrase is a good idea sometimes when you're writing simple music, because it really feels like, that's the end of a passage, but there's still more to go since you have that sound of the 5 chord going on. So what are we going to do to complete the song? Well, like I said, this is a very easy example, so we're actually just going to copy and paste it, and then we're going to change the last chord to be a 1 chord again. So I'm probably just going to come on. There we go. And I'm going to make the final note in F as well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change, and by the way, when you copy the section, if you decide to do that to make it easy, you can change some of the notes on the second go around. It will make it sound probably even a little bit better. Yeah, let's try that. So I'm going to try the whole thing now. Hopefully I can see the whole thing. Here we go. And by ending on that one chord, it sounds final, nice, and finished. The final thing you want to do when you write your first song is we need to put a double bar line at the end of it, because that signifies that the song is over. You can also do repeats or start a whole new section. Obviously, a lot of songs go, or piano pieces also, go a lot longer than 4 measures or 8 measures. Hello students, if you enjoyed this lesson and you want the notes to go along with it, as well as some relevant videos that I think would give you a better grasp on writing music, I really highly suggest you check out the annotation here. If you don't see it, then there will be a link in the description for you, so check that out. pianolessonsontheweb.com/first song will get you to that page. So thanks as always, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you so much.